Welcome once again to our English revision class. It's still I, your teacher for English language. Today, we want to consider the theory questions in our SSCE. Theory questions in SSCE 2023. Yeah, that's the year I'm picking up now. So want to practically look at how to attempt these questions. All right, so one thing is sure under section 1 or section A, under the theory questions, you are to answer one question. You have about 5 questions under writing, and you are to pick one question of your choice. Isn't that such an easy thing? For me, I think it's okay, being that you have 5 questions and you're to pick just one. What does that tell me? That you have to, or rather, what does that tell you? You have to acquaint yourself with a particular question. You don't have to go about studying so hard on all the 5, because you could enter the exam hall and you get confused on which to write. So I will tell you what I tell my students. Letter writings must come out. Get yourself acquainted with the 3 types of letter writing. You want to write essay, it could be narrative essay, it could be descriptive, it could be argumentative, it could be expository essay. Now, if you are going to write narrative essay, which always comes out, narrative essay will always come out. If you want to write that type of essay, hope you are well grounded in figures of speech, idiomatic expressions. If you're not well grounded in figures of speech, idiomatic expressions, and proverbs, I doubt if you would do well in the narrative essay. So it's very important that you do well in studying and practicing letter writing. You know why I prefer letter writing? It won't be far from write a letter to a local government chairman, write a letter to your friend, write a letter to your father, write a letter to an uncle of yours, write a letter to a class teacher of yours. The only problem you may tell me you would be having, it's a case of identifying which type of letter. Go to my video on letter writing types, and it will be easy for you to know when you're asked to write a formal letter, an informal letter, or a semi-formal letter. Or are you that child, or that student rather, who is good with words? If you are good with words, then I give it to you. Go ahead and do your narrative writing. But you know, we are not always certain about the nature of question that would come up. What if you are given an idiom that you don't know of? You've never come across that idiom, or a proverb you've never come across before. How would you attempt writing that? So that's why it's always easy for teachers to tell their students to write letters, because you don't have so much to worry about apart from address of the writer, if it's an informal letter, salutation, body of the letter, and your conclusion. Yours sincerely, the formal format for an informal letter. Then your first name. Is it for the formal letter, address of the writer, address of the receiver, salutation, title, body, yours faithfully, signature, your name in full. That's just it. So you can imagine how easy it is. Someone may be saying it's because you are an English teacher. No, dear, that's not the truth. There are students that when you call them, once you teach them, you call them to write, it flows easily that way. So once you acquaint yourself with the formats, like I said in my short video on how to study and pass, once you acquaint yourself with the formats in writing these letter types, you definitely wouldn't have any problem, because the body of the letter, you will definitely know what to write, aligning them in your indented paragraphs or the block paragraph, depending on your choice. All right, so we want to look at this question. This one says, your school participated in an inter-house sports festival recently. As a sports prefect, write a report on the event for your school. So writing reports are also easy. You could actually think of writing reports. All right, that's another easy one, because it wouldn't demand so much of figurative expressions, idioms, not so much. But obviously, because it's an inter-house sports festival competition or inter-house sports festival, you could actually bring in some idioms or proverbs that could help garnish or spice up your essay. It's always very important. Essays demand words that, or phrases or clauses that would spice it up. That's just the truth. So if you're to write a report, what are you to do? You just write your title. Once you write your title, you delve into what? The report. Remember, it's a report, so you write in the past tense. A report must always be written in the past tense, and it has to be what? A formal language. You must write your report in a formal language. That's another problem that people make when writing their essays. Your report must be written in formal language. Someone would ask, what are formal languages? Formal languages are languages that depict officiality. It shows that something, you're not being friendly in your choice of words. You're not being chatty in your choice of words. So if you are to use the word start in your report, you are not going to use start, because start or begin, it's an informal word. You would rather use commence. All right, so as well in your report, you don't have room to use, dear. You definitely use official titles. When you're writing to someone, you're writing a report, and you have to make mention of names, you must add the title of such person. So that's that about report, after which you are signing out. Now, it's important for us to also note that our paragraphs must not be less than 4. You must have at least, you can have more than that, but you must have at least 4 paragraphs. Why do I say so? Because the starting paragraph, or the first paragraph, is your introduction. Now, it's possible for you to discuss the idea, the content of your report in 2 paragraphs. Then the last paragraph, which is the 4th, will now be your conclusion. But where you have so many ideas, all right, you can have as much as rather 5 paragraphs or 6 paragraphs. So that's very important. So it applies to all other essay types. So that's for report writing. Remember, we said to attempt this question, you must have your title. Just remember, it says your school participated in an inter-school sports festival recently. As the sports prefect, write a report on the event for your school. So I will have to title it Inter-House Sports Report on Inter-House Sports, or yes, report on Inter-House Sports Festival. Then you start off your essay. When you're done, you're signing off. You're not going to endorse your signature, no, but you're going to write the sport written by the sports prefect, your name and your class. All right, written by, your name is Jerry Jones, sports prefect, year 12, Ego, or year 9, Ego, depending on your class. So that's for report writing. The next one is an article. It says there have been several articles in the national newspaper on the lack of maintenance of public facilities. It's even a letter. Write a letter to the editor of one of the newspapers expressing your opinion on the matter. So it's not actually an article, all right, but it's an article that is written in a national newspaper on lack of maintenance of public facilities. It says write a letter to the editor of one of the newspapers expressing your opinion on the matter. So obviously this is what? A formal letter. What are formal letters? Formal letters are official letters. They are business letters. They are written to people that we do not have close relationship with. They are also written to people who occupy certain positions. I know I had to go as far as defining it as people who occupy certain positions. Reason being that I have come across a question, I can't really point clearly, but I've come across a question which says that your class prefect, yes, you have to write a letter to the class prefect or the prefect of your school on how you feel issues about school should be tackled. And some people wrote that letter as an informal letter. Why? Because they feel that the senior prefect is their friend. Please, senior prefect is a position. And because it's a position, you are not considering the person, you are considering the office occupied by that person. And as such, it is a formal letter. So formal letters are letters written to people who occupy certain positions, and when you're writing to them, you're writing to the position they occupy, not to the persons in question. Remember, that person has the possibility of leaving that office. When the person leaves the office, that letter written remains in that office, remains in a file. Another person coming up to take up the position will definitely go through it while going through files. So that's why we do not consider formal letters as personal letters, rather they are business letters. So in this number 2 question is obviously a formal letter. If I were to write, go about it, what will I do? My first point of call will be to capture my address. That's the address of the writer. I would like to point that examiners will never, quote me anywhere, examiners will never go all out to check if the address used is existing or not. As a matter of fact, most of our writings are fictitious. They are basically not true. By not being true, it could be that the address we have used is not existing, characters we mention in our letters are not existing, places that we mention in our narratives or essays are not existing. The body could be true, the storyline could be true, but all other factors being looked at may not be true, and that's why we refer to them as fictitious. So ahead of time, as a scholar who knows that sometime in future or in the next 2 weeks I would be writing English exam, why don't you get yourself a paper, master a particular address you could use, an address that is easy for you to, that will be easy for you to memorize. Memorize that address and have it at the back of your mind that since I'm going to write letter, any form of letter, I will definitely need my own address. So once you have that at the back of your mind, you've settled that aspect of your exam. All right. So your address will be captured as address of the writer, and that's written at the topmost right-hand side of your answer sheet. That's the address of the writer. Immediately after address of the writer is your date. You add your date. Please, let's write in the British way, the day, the month, then the year. Do not bring month before the day. The day comes, then apply your add-ons. I have a sample letter in one of my videos on letter writing. You could go back to it to view it so as to know how you can go about it. But it's important that we know that the address of the writer in all letter types is written at the topmost right-hand side of your answer sheet. Please, punctuations are very necessary. Basically, the punctuations that you will be adopting for your address will definitely be the comma and the full stop. The comma and the full stop. Another thing I would want to point out in address of the writer is for you to know where the letter is going to. Now, looking at this letter, it says, there have been several articles in the national newspaper on the maintenance of public facilities. That's national. So maybe I could think of national newspaper could be in Lagos State, all right? So if I'm saying that the national newspaper, the office is in Lagos State, the editor's office is in Lagos State, and I'm here in Port Harcourt, that means in my address, I must capture Rivers State. So when a question is posed in such a way that the person you're writing to does not reside in the same state with you, you must reflect in your address your own state. If you're asked to write to someone who is in another state, your address must have your own state. If you're writing to someone in the same town with you, there won't be need for Rivers State or whichever state where you feel you reside. You're writing to someone in another country. After your state is your country, which is Nigeria. So it runs in that format. So if I'm going to write my address, it will be possibly House 8, New Moji Layout, Moji, Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Because I told you I'm writing to the editor of a newspaper, all right? So, and it says the national newspaper, so I am assuming that they are resident in Lagos State. That's what it is. So obviously, in the address of the receiver, I would capture Lagos State in it. So immediately after my address, I will write the date. Today is 17th, if I'm not mistaken. So I have 17th April, 2024. Please do not write September 17. No, 17th, if it's 21st, if it's 22nd. Please do not superscript your add-on. I call it add-on. That is those two letters you add after the number. That's the day. So 21st it will be on the same line. It's not going to be ST on top of 21. It's not going to be ST under 21. No, it's on the same line. Like I said, if you need to know better how to go about your address, go back to my video on letter writing, or you could check up the text, your ExamGuide app. Go into it, you could see formats on how to write your letter. So after my address is address of the receiver. Who is the receiver? The receiver is the editor. The editor, national newspapers. Where is national newspapers? Maybe where is Lagos? Apapa, Lagos State. Apapa, Lagos State. That's the address of the receiver. You're writing to the editor. And where does this editor stay? The editor of which place? National newspapers. Where is the national newspaper located? It is located in Apapa. Where is Apapa located? Apapa is located in Lagos State. That way, the sender of the letter is able to send it appropriately. But when your address is rioting, it will obviously affect delivery. That's the essence of all this. So immediately after the address of the receiver, the next thing is to salute. In your writing salutation, once you write the receiver's name, yes, so once you write the receiver's name, it will as well affect your complimentary close. If you check my video, you will see that I pointed it out. So if I am saying, dear Mr. Jerry, as the editor, and I'm saying, dear Mr. Jerry, instead of saying, dear sir, comma, I'm saying, dear Mr. Jerry, possibly because I know his name. I've heard his name on the telly, and I decided to write to him using his name as the editor. So, dear Mr. Jerry, when I'm signing off, when I'm done with my letter, and I want to close my letter, that's my complimentary close to sign off. It will be yours sincerely. It will no longer be yours faithfully. Why? Because you have mentioned the person's name. That means you have kind of a little relationship with the person, but it's not informal. All right. So once you mention someone's name when writing a letter, by default, it affects your complimentary close. You no longer write the usual yours faithfully for a formal letter. It becomes yours sincerely. So in order not to get yourself confused, go on with the dear sir. Assume you, even if you know the person, assume you don't know the person. Go on with your dear sir if you're sure it's a man. If you're sure it's a woman, dear madam. Please, ma, like I said, it means mother. Ma is not a short form of madam. Ma is mother. M-A means mother. You could check it up. So don't write dear ma, write dear madam in full. And observe your comma. You are not certain about the gender. It's not out of place to write dear sir / madam. But where the gender is known, please let the title indicate that the gender is known. So after which, when you're closing your letter having used sir / madam, or only sir or only madam, close off with what? Yours faithfully. Please, that F after yours must be written in small letter. Most times people write it in capital letter. So with sincerely. Yours sincerely, small letter. Faithfully is small letter F. The Y is the only thing allowed to be in capital letter under that line. So after your complimentary close, which is yours faithfully, go on and sign. Now, to make your work neat, I don't know how lengthy your signature is. If your signature is as long as what I do not know, then it is important that you start from where you have your Y and sign to where it ends to maybe the Y in faithfully. But where it is very short, it will be neat enough for you to get to the center to sign. Then write your name in full. Please do not write your first name only. Write your name in full. Your name is too long, rather. Your name is too long. It will not contain in the space that I have for signing out. Please do well to write your surname and your initials. Yes, your surname and your initials. Your name is Onyekachukwu Emanuela Deborah. All right? And you know that the 3 will not enter. They are not names. It's your name. It's not what you don't add S to it. It's not pluralized. So if you know that that name of yours will not enter, the much you have will not enter, what do? you write your surname. My surname is Onyekachukwu. I'll write Onyekachukwu. My first name is Emanuela. I'll write E. I'll put my full stop and I'll write D, which is Deborah. That settles it. So that's that for a formal letter. So I'm not going to waste so much time again. So it's just for us to read and tell us how to go about them. Now the third one says, your friend who resides in another country wants to study in your school and has written for information and advice. Write a letter to him telling him all that he needs to know about the school. It's just that simple. So it says my friend. So when I know I'm writing to a friend, I already know that it's an informal letter. Informal letters are friendly letters. They are private letters. So they are letters that we write to friends, that we write to families, we write to relatives, all right, close relatives, because we have distant relatives and they are the people we write part of the people rather, we write semi-formal letters to. So if you're writing a letter to a friend, if you've been asked to write a letter to a friend of yours, all right, read it through. You are to write a letter to a friend, it's an informal letter. So I already know it's an informal letter and I'm expecting just one address. Now, in my address, what am I supposed to see there? I've been asked to write a letter to a friend who resides in another country. I mentioned it earlier. Once you're asked to write a letter to someone, your address must picture the person. Your address must indicate that either the letter is going to the same state with you, outside your state, or outside your country. So you see that in this letter, I will obviously have Nigeria in my address. Why? Because I'm writing to someone in another country. So I've said it is an informal letter. I will use informal words. I could contract my words. I don't have to be too formal. I don't have to make it look as if I'm just meeting you for the first time. So I can actually use hello friend, all right, dear friend, dear beloved. You can actually give pet names, but for the formal letters, there are no rooms for pet names. Or we could actually allow pet names in informal letter and word contractions. Word contractions are not allowed in formal letters. All right. So how do I close my letter? I close my letter with what? Yours affectionately, yours sincerely, your friend, your sister, best wishes. I could close my letter with any of the mentioned complimentary clause. After writing that, to sign off, I'll just write my first name. Remember, this is a friend. So definitely the person knows me so well. It's either I write my first name or a pet name. If I have a nickname that I'm called by this friend of mine, then nothing stops you from writing that nickname. It's an informal letter and it's written with slangs as well. So slangs basically that are generally accepted. Do not use slangs associated with a few persons. No, esoteric slangs are not allowed. Use slangs that are common to all. Dude is a slang and is generally accepted. G is a slang, it is generally accepted. So please never make use of slangs that are not generally accepted. I want to believe that that is noted. Right, so we'll move to the fourth one, which says write an article suitable for publication in your school magazine on the needs to revive the activities, clubs and societies, to restore club activities and societies in schools. Right, so this is an article. Most times articles are more like essays. What do you do if you want to write your article? You have to research, but being that you're in an exam condition, your brain has to do the work. You need to rack your brain to know on how to revive the club activities and societies in your school. What are these club activities? You have the chess club, you have the drama club, you have the dance club, you have the debate club, you have the literary club, you have the home management or homemakers club, as many as possible. People have the jet club, it's popularly known. You have the ICT club. Now you know that these clubs are dead. You are to write an article on how to revival of dead clubs and activities, or revival of moribund clubs and societies. club activities and societies in my school. So you must have to define these keywords. That's one thing with articles. But definition shouldn't start off your article. You must have your introduction, just the way you have introduction for other essay types. In your article, you must have an introduction. So if I'm going to write an article on how to revive activity clubs and societies, I could start off with my introduction in this manner. Clubs and societies in school are interesting ways of schools promoting the learning abilities of students. Having these clubs become moribund will definitely affect the social life of students, being that all the time we are always in class learning academic works. It is necessary for us to wind down by going for different clubs and learning things that could help us tomorrow. All right, so that can be an introduction. Now you go on to define key terms. We have key terms here that you can define what clubs are, you can define what social societies are. Yes, societies, I guess that's what it is, but basically clubs. When you're done defining them, then go on to the main body, which is what you can do to revive the club activities. What you can do to revive club activities could be taken in sub-headings. If you have them marshaled out, maybe mapping out a day for club rehearsals, all right, that is one way. Being consistent in these days is another way. Okay, so when you have this line outlined, you will take them one after the other to elaborate on them and tell how they could help revive club activities in schools. So once you're done writing, remember I say suitable for publication. People would want to know who wrote it. It's important that you sign off. Write your name, your class, and if there is a post you occupy in school, you could also put the post. So that's that. Remember your title. After your title, go to introduction. After your introduction, define keywords. After defining keywords, go on to subtitles that you have developed by virtue of what you are asked to write on the body. Then we are going to the fifth one. All right, so the next one is write a story to illustrate the saying, half a loaf is better than none. Half a loaf is better than none. It reminds me of the popular saying that a beggar has no choice. That's what it is. So whatever a beggar is given, let him take it. But these days, beggars do have choice, you know. So, okay, half a loaf is better than none. Now, this going to test your ability to create. Now, narrative essay deals more on creativity. If you don't have the creative prowess, then I would not advise you to delve into this. One thing I always tell my students, when you're given something to write on, this is a topic that has been given to you to write on. You are asked to write a story that illustrates the saying or to illustrate this saying. Never at any point make this very saying your title. You need to create a title from this very saying that has been given to you. So if I'm to write an essay on half a loaf, illustrating the saying half a loaf is better than none, I could title it appreciating life differences, or making do with the little I have. You must create something, and these are the things I presented to us that could pose as problems. Reason why I said writing letters are better. Why? I don't have to start racking my brain on a title. The titles, okay, peradventure you are asked to write a formal letter, you would be saying you will have to write a title. The titles are basically there for formal letters. You see the titles glaring. It's now for you to structure them appropriately. But when it comes to essay writing, you are creating a title for yourself. The only thing is that a topic has been given to you. From the topic given, think of a catchy title. Your title has to be catchy, but it's not so with a formal letter. So because you need to create a catchy title, because you need to, in each paragraph, show your ability to use figurative expressions, idiomatic expressions, and proverbs, it is pertinent that you exercise your, prowess in writing in respect to letters other than narrative essays, except you're that student who reads very much. You read books and you are abreast with a whole lot of idioms, a whole lot of figurative expressions, and you write often. So if you are that student, I give it to you. Go ahead and write narrative. Show your literary prowess. But if you are not good at using, if somebody makes use of proverbs or idioms, you get angry. What business do you have writing narrative essay? So you must understand that narrative essays demand prowess in literary appreciations, prowess in idiomatic expressions, prowess in proverbs. So if you don't have these at your fingertips, because it's not what you start racking your brain, or you think you have your phone to browse your phone to check which idiom you would delay yourself. Remember, you have limited time, 20 minutes if I'm not mistaken, to write 450 words. So it's best you go into what you can actually approach with ease and you get your marks. Now, it's easy to reduce marks or to score very low in essays. Why? There are no specified aspects that, specified scores rather for, or mark for each aspect of the essay part. The essay part for narrative is just your title. Once your title is there, the next thing we are looking at is your body. How is the introduction? Is the introduction catchy? If your introduction is not catchy as well as your title, forget it. The examiner gets discouraged. Let me use that word. The examiner gets discouraged going through your work. If our introduction is this bad, how much more the other paragraphs? Because it's believed that your introduction and your conclusion should be very catchy. Once they are catchy, you've given the examiner the impression that you know what you're doing. I am not saying that the other body paragraphs should not be good as well, but you sell yourself. You know the popular saying, first impression matters. So that your introductory paragraph is like your first impression. So you have to create a nice one. So please, like I said earlier, if you're not good at figurative expressions, idiomatic expressions, proverbs, I don't see any reason why you should write narrative work. All right, so we can't waste so much time further. So number 6 is comprehension, the passage. Are we going to read it? Yes, we'll quickly run through it. Then we could get the answers. Now, what I'm going to do in this comprehension is to delve into areas that are usually pose problems. Those areas that pose problems. You will agree with me that if I run through this comprehension passage, it will take us a whole lot of time. So, and unfortunately, I can't see underlined words. Neither do I see words written in italics. So it will actually take me so much time. So going to identify the answers now will be an issue. I will quickly say something. In attempting your comprehension passage, I said it in my short video on how to study and pass. I usually prefer to read the questions, but being that I'm using a system, I won't actually go through the questions. What I want to do is to read the comprehension passage to give me understanding on what the passage is all about. Then I would go to the underlined words. Those are the areas we'll work on. I will go to the underlined words to answer them. Then for those that are not underlined, that are just normal questions, I will show us how to go about it. Then you identify the answers when you do them on your own. Now it says it was a cold, windy Monday morning just before dawn. A frail old woman who could barely see beyond a few meters ahead of her, an early septuagenarian. That's when you hear of septuagenarian, it's sept has to do with 7. So obviously it should be people within their 70 years. Yes, early 70s. Octogenarian is for 80s. So sept, that's how I got to know it's for 80. Within an early septuagenarian, that's someone who is in her early 70s, 71, 72, 73. Yes, that's it, 74, because 75 is mid. All right, braved all odds and stepped out onto the dirty road in the village of Comia. For her, today's death had to be done, even if it meant further risking her delicate health. The word delicate, delicate health. All right, let's continue. When we go through the questions, we'll see the words we are going to look out for their meanings. So what would I not do for Koku to amount to something in this life that has given me nothing but woes? Mma Koku thought to herself. That's the old woman. And so, despite the ominous signs from the sky and wearing just a threadbare sweater over an equally aged wrapper, she forged ahead, daring the drought of air that was threatening to topple her. Luckily, the sand ground was still largely undisturbed owing to the dew. So she didn't have to contend with fending off particles from her often rheumy eyes. Come what may, Mma Koko assured herself as her left foot plunged into a muddy pothole she hadn't seen in time. Today, I shall see the Pathfinder before he leaves for the city. Her destination was still about 9 kilometers away. At home, the Pathfinder, a middle-aged university teacher, the very first person to earn the highest postgraduate degree from the village of Kumia, had just roused himself from the dreamland. In the dream, a figure in white had told him he owed an obligation to the old woman. She was on her way to give him a parcel for her son studying in the university in the city, about 1,000 miles away. The Pathfinder had come home for a 2-day visit, and the news had got to Mma Koko, who gladly took all her savings for the last 3 months, put it in a small envelope, and tied up in the edge of her wrapper. The duo were to meet at, that's the two persons, that's Mma Koko and the Pathfinder, were to meet at the junction where the village road led off to the city. You know, Lord, this is all I have. Please let my son turn out well, the old woman prayed. No sacrifice is too much for one's child, she heaved, skipping over another muddy pothole, for it had rained the previous day. By the time Mma Koko got about a mile from the Pathfinder's home, the day was now bright enough for her to see with less strain. However, the sky suddenly became overcast, and only seconds later, there was a torrent from the heavens. There was very little that the surprised old woman could do to stave off the watery onslaught. So she trudged on stoically. At the appointed place, the Pathfinder activated his wipers at top speed as he stayed on the lookout for the person he was expecting. As drenched as Mma Koko came into view, the Pathfinder switched off the ignition and rushed out. That's to show respect and empathy. You know, we have to care for people. So the Pathfinder switched off the ignition and rushed out to meet up with her, guiding her into a nearby shade. You see, empathy. After a few minutes of pleasantries, that's greetings, that's pleasantries, and you must do that in your informal letter. So after few minutes of pleasantries, how are you? I hope you're fine. How is your family? How is your health? She handed over her widow's mite. That's the last thing she has. That's the widow's mite. Mma, please wait here till the sky stops weeping. Wow, till the sky stops weeping. Does the sky weep? That's because of the downpour, and it's being figurative. You see what I told us? For those who must write narratives, you need to make use of your figurative expressions, and this, it's one of them, the sky weeping, and that's personification when you give life to something that doesn't have life. He begged her, I must run along now. Ah, what can beat a mother's love? Dr. Felix Adoka soliloquized pensively. That must be the Pathfinder. So shaking his head as he winked a left turn to an oncoming driver prepared to confront the elements, that's the rain. So I shall ensure her son gets a teaching job once he is done, he promised himself, having seen that woman. So why, the question says, why did Mma Koko leave home on a cold, windy Monday morning? So now to answer this question, it is possible that you start off with your preamble. Preamble is like an introduction to your answer. Why did Mmakoko leave home on a cold, windy morning? Mmakoko left home on a cold, windy morning because she needed to meet with the pathfinder to drop a message for her son who is in the university. We saw it in the first paragraph. So I know what the story is all about. About an old woman, a septuagenarian, who did what? Who had to save up 3 months of her salary to send to her son who is in the university studying. And it says it's her only son, and she's doing all of those because she needed her son to amount to something in life. So that was why she had to leave. She needed to meet up with the pathfinder. Who is the pathfinder? You can refer to him as Dr. Felix. But we got to know it's Dr. Felix towards the end of the story. So it's not out of place if you refer to him as the pathfinder. So we have answered number 1. All right, so I've shown you how to answer. It is important that you refer to the question. By referring to the question asked, that's your preamble. Why did Mmakoko leave home on a cold, windy Monday morning? Mmakoko left home on a cold, windy morning because, don't say because she needed, you could start that way, all right? That's your subordinate clause. But if you're going to start that way, you must finish it this way. Because you want to answer the question. Because she needed to give a parcel to the pathfinder for her son, she left home on a cold, windy morning. Perfect. But you can't say, because you asked the question, why did Mmakoko leave home on a cold, windy morning? Your response is because she needed to give a parcel to the pathfinder for her son. It is wrong. You will fail. You see the way I'm answering it, you will obviously fail. So you must finish it up. If you want to start with because, finish it with the question asked. That's your preamble. So that's why it's best to start off with the preamble. Mmakoko left home on a cold, windy Monday morning because she needed to meet up with the pathfinder to help her give a parcel to her son who is in the university in the city. You have answered. Once the examiner reads it, he marks it. But once you start with because and you don't finish, you obviously fail. So what 2 difficulties did Mmakoko face on her way to meet the pathfinder? Did we see anything like that? Yes, you go back to check. What 2 difficulties? And if I'm to answer this, I will also use my preamble. The 2 difficulties Mmakoko faced on her way to meet the pathfinder are as follow. I will observe my colon. I. What was the difficulty that she faced? It was raining. Yes, it rained heavily, so she had issues. The ground was muddy, and she had to she had to steep her leg in the muds, and that affected her. It was very cold. That was where the difficulty she faced. The rain was a difficulty, and the fact that she had to pass through muddy roads. Those are the difficulties that she faced. You saw how I answered it. 2 difficulties. Please do not use and to join 2 answers. It is wrong. You have been asked to give 2 difficulties. Number the difficulties. Give 3 difficulties. I, Roman figure. I, Roman figure for the second point. Do not say the 2 difficulties Mmakoko faced on her way to meet the pathfinder. The 2 difficulties are that she had to dip her leg in the mud, and it rained heavily that to the point that she was drenched. You have given just 1 point. So the 2 difficulties she faced are as follows. Observe your colon. I. Once you put the Roman figure I, the next letter, if it's not a proper noun, should start with a small letter. I'm sorry, I can't type it now. So we move to C. What may have prompted the villagers to call the man the pathfinder? The villagers called the man the pathfinder because why? We were told he was the first person in the village to come out with a word. Postgraduate. Where is it? We have it somewhere. You could find it. So this is not the time. He said, all right, where do we have the pathfinder? Here is it. The third paragraph, look at it, at home, that's the third line. The pathfinder, a middle-aged university teacher, the very first name to earn, the very first person, you see it, that was why he was called the pathfinder. He was the very first person to earn the highest postgraduate degree from the village of what? Comia. That was why he was called the pathfinder. So the villagers called him, or what prompted the villagers to call the man the pathfinder is because he was because he was the first person to earn what? Postgraduate degree in the village of what? Comia. We've answered it. Always use your preamble. It's very important. Preamble is important, all right? All right, so let's go on. What two indications are there in the passage that Mmakoko was poor? Two indications. The two indications that Mmakoko was poor are: one, what did they say? In paragraph 1, we were told something about the sweater she wore. Yes, look at it. And so despite the luminous signs from the sky and wearing just a threadbare sweater, that shows that she was poor. What other indication is there? I've given one indication. She wore a worn-out sweater or a threadbare. Put it for them there. It's in summary that you can actually choose your own words. So another point that she was poor was that she had to save up. Yes, I remember. She has to save up her what? 3 months' salary so as to send to her son. That's an indication of poverty. So those two are reasons that point to the fact that she was poor, or an indication that she was poor. Number 5, what was Pathfinder's attitude to Mmakoko? Who can remember? Yes, her attitude, or rather his attitude, because it's a man. Pathfinder is a man. His attitude, we remember we read it somewhere where he said the moment he saw the woman, he left his car, rushed towards her, and helped her to, shade her rather from the rain. So that is it. What attitude is that? It's not all that the man did that you would tell us. No, attitude is a behavior. So what was his behavior? His behavior was his attitude shown was that of what? Respect and empathy, a feeling towards mankind. When you see someone going through pains, you have that feeling to help the person. That's called empathy. So it was that of respect and what? Empathy. That was his attitude to Mmakoko. Number 5, question F says, what was the expectation of Mmakoko concerning her son? What did she expect of her son? I guess we read something like that in the first paragraph. Look at it here, almost the last line. It said, what would I not do for Koko to amount to something in this life? That was her expectation, that her son would what? Amount to something. So the expectation of Mmakoko concerning her son was that her son would amount to something in life. So look at the next question. G says, in what age range would you place Mmakoko? Remember, I analyzed it. In what age range? Go back to the first paragraph. That's where the answer is. In what age range? Look at it. It said, it was a cold, windy Monday morning. That's almost an alliteration. Just before dawn, a frail old woman who could barely see beyond a few meters ahead of her. An early septuagenarian. So septuagenarian is what? One in her 70s. And we have been told that she's an early septuagenarian, meaning she's in her early 70s. 75 is mid-70s. So early septuagenarian will be from 71 towards 74. And it says, in what age range would you place Mmakoko? I will place Mmakoko, would you? So Mmakoko would be placed at the age of what? Would be placed in her early 70s. It should be put that way because you can't specify if it is 71, 72, or 73. That would be making guesses. So she's in her early what? 70s. Mmakoko is in her early 70s. All right, the H says, sky stop sweeping. I remember saying something. See if I knew they were going to ask questions. But the only thing is that they would have written them in italics to show that something is important. But obviously, when you will be in the exam hall, those words will definitely either be underlined or written in italics. So look at it. Sky stops weeping. Sky is a thing. Sky doesn't weep. Weeping is an act carried out by human beings. And now we have said that the sky is weeping. So without being told, it's called personification. So it says, what figure of speech is contained in the expression above? This expression is what? Personified. So the answer is what? Personification. We are moving. All right. I. All right, so let's go to I. It says, before he leaves for the city. All right. Now, it's important for us to know that in every comprehension passage, I think I said it, yes, I said it in my video or something, I can't remember, but I have to repeat it, that in every comprehension passage, you must expect, 1, questions under figurative expressions, 2, questions under grammatical names and functions. If you've not heard that before, you need to go back to my videos on adjectival clauses or phrases, my videos on other clauses or phrases, you would see them there. Grammatical names are your noun phrase or clause, adjectival phrase or clause, adverbial clause or phrase, then prepositional clause or phrase. Now, these are the 4 grammatical names that we have, and they all have their functions. Their functions are dependent on what each of these grammatical names do. All right, so noun clauses or noun phrases have about 6 functions. Adjectival clauses will always modify a noun in the main clause. Adverbial clauses will always modify verbs in the main clause. Now, once you come across this question, you need to go back to the passage, because going back to the passage will help you identify the function. Now, I've been asked, they said, before he leaves for the city. And the question says, what is the grammatical name given to this expression as it is used in the passage? So we are going back to the passage. I'm particular about it. But once I see before, I know that before has to do with time, adverb of time. So I know it's adverbial. So is it adverbial clause or phrase? Is it adverbial clause or phrase? It is adverbial clause. Oh, please, why do you say so? Someone may ask. It is adverbial clause because clauses are a group of words that have finite verbs, can stand on their own, and they make sense. Now, this is a subordinate clause of the main sentence. Obviously, a complex sentence or a compound complex sentence, but this is an extraction from a particular sentence, and this part of this sentence is called the subordinate clause, and that is usually where we identify the grammatical name. So this is adverbial clause. Why? Because there is a finite verb, which is leaves. All right, so I really have to find where this is in the passage. Before words, let me read it again so that I could be fast about it. Before he leaves for the city. Should it be in the first paragraph? Let's try. I really need to find it for you people so that we could explain better. That's the essence. Those are my concerns, not the other passages from this figurative expression. All right, so please be patient with me, okay? So I'm going to find that subordinate clause, before he leaves for the city. That's exactly what I am looking out for. Why? Because it will help me to identify the function. Obviously, that will be the next thing I will be asked to do. So I really need to find it. Should I go through reading it again? All right, let me just read paragraph 3 and see what is there. Come what may, Makoko. Okay, today we shall see the pathfinder. Kilometers to the village. Please be patient with me. You will not regret. Right, the pathfinder. Okay. All right, I'm still looking for it. I'm yet to find it. Oh, that's very bad. You see, if it were to be written in italics, it won't be hard for me to indicate. Oh, that means I'll have to read the passage all over. Permit me, please. So despite the ominous sky and wearing treadback sweater, forged ahead, daring the drought of the air, Okay, it's obviously not there. Come what may, muddy potholes, saying today I shall see the pathfinder. Oh, perfect. I said it is in the third paragraph. I should have read it before. All right, so this is it. This is it. This is what we are looking for. Look at it. Before he leaves for the city, that's the adverbial clause. So what's the function? Now look at where this sentence started. Where did it start from? Where did it start from? It says, come what may, Mma Koko assured herself as her left foot plunged into a muddy pothole she hadn't seen in time. Today, what happens? He says, I shall see the pathfinder. What will happen? He says, before he leaves the city, what will happen? So the act that will take place is what the function is. Because I told you adverbial clauses modify verbs in the main sentence. So this is it. Today, I shall see the pathfinder before he leaves. What would Mmakoku do before the pathfinder leaves for the city? She would what? See. That's the answer. So the function is the next thing. We have identified the grammatical name, which is what? Adverbial clause. So what's the next question? Before he leaves for the city, what is its function? So the function of this adverbial clause of time is that it modifies the verb see. We saw it. They say, I shall see the pathfinder. So that's actually what will happen before the man leaves. That's what the woman plans to do. So whatever someone plans to do, it's what the function is, because it has to modify a verb in the main clause. Are we okay? I guess so. So we are moving on to G. G has things we need to consider, and that's the aspect of words. I told us that obviously certain words would be underlined, as much as they are not underlined here, but have it at the back of your mind that certain words will be underlined on the day of exam. If they are not underlined, it could be written in italics, in another format other than the format you are seeing collectively. So you must endeavor to change those words when you are reading the passage. Change the words at the moment you are reading. The only reason you wouldn't change the word is because you did not understand it upon first reading. You did not understand the meaning of that word in context. Then you could jump it, continue reading. Maybe by the time you'll come around to read the second time, obviously you're going to read the passage like 2-3 times. Some people could read once and they flow easily, understand, and they're able to answer questions, while some people have to read about 2 times, 3 times. Don't compare yourself with anybody. Just go about it. Make sure you work within the time frame that has been given. So obviously about 5 words will be underlined. Now, the 5 words I'm talking of, you should know, I'm not talking about the ones we've taken care of. That's the figure of speech and grammatical name. Those are not words. The words I'm talking about are individual words or possibly phrases. Could be underlined, and you're asked to give another word or another phrase that means exactly the same thing as used in the passage. So once you come across these words, try as much as possible to change them. Never change the words or never give the meaning of the word out of context. The word delicate obviously is a common word. When you hear of the word delicate, you've heard that eggs are delicate. All right, so obviously one we should be thinking about not strong, but not strong obviously shouldn't be a word that should come to mind. You should have a one word synonym for delicate. You could think about weak. When you say somebody is delicate, the person is weak, the person is frail, the person is fragile. That's when you say something is delicate. So it's now for you to go back to the passage. That's why I'm going to go back, so that you won't think I've given just 3 words, and you're not allowed to give more than 1 word. It is 1 word. Don't say, let me put 2 answers. Peradventure, I don't get this one. Let me get this one. Even if you get 1, you will be wronged for giving 2 answers. So you must be reasonable in your choice of an answer. You have 2 words. You know that these 2 words are suitable as synonyms for this particular word. Do not give the 2. Go back to the passage, my dear students. Go back to the passage. What do? Change it. I've seen delicate. All right, it says for her, today's duty had to be done, even if it meant further risking her delicate health. So which other word could we use? Should we use fragile? Should we use weak? Should we use frail? Any one of them can serve as long as this word is concerned. My health is weak. I'm getting weak. That's health. So I would prefer to use weak to be on the safer side or the safest side. So she said, if it meant if it meant further risking her what? Weak health or her fragile health. So weak, fragile, the two can actually go, but I must choose one. And I said I'm choosing what? Weak. The next word is ominous. Imagine you've never heard about this word before. I think I've not heard about it, but the word, when I heard the word omi, it always tells me something negative. There are just words you see, you know that it's negative in form. So let's check where we have ominous. I know I saw it where they talked about the thunder or something. All right, delicate health, obviously it will not be there. And so despite, all right, it's in the second paragraph. And so despite the ominous signs from the sky, the ominous signs from the sky, and wearing just, so I'm not bothered about that one. So despite the ominous signs, what do you think will be ominous? The threatening signs, all right? Yes, I could go for the word threatening. Ominous is the threatening signs, the deadly signs from the sky, but deadly is quite deep. So I will quickly go for the word threatening signs from the sky. So that's the word that is synonymous in context to the word ominous. That's threatening. An obligation. Everybody knows what an obligation is. It's your obligation to do this. As parents, some of us say, Daddy, it's your obligation to pay my school fees. What's that? It's your duty. So since I have an article, an obligation, I must change within context, and whatever word I'm going to use, I will put an article to it. So if that word I want to use starts upon pronunciation, it starts with a consonant sound, I will use a. If it starts with a vowel sound, I will also use an. So that you see them use an obligation doesn't mean that you must use an to know. You must consider the word you're changing it with. Perfect. God doesn't want me to stress so much. So here is it. The third paragraph, that's second to the last line. It says, in the dream, a figure in white had told him he owed an obligation to the old woman. So he owed a duty to the old woman. He owed a responsibility. So you see, I've changed it with a responsibility. Do not say you cannot get a word or no. The way it appeared with an, give it an article before the word. There must be an article before the word. These are things you must note. Again, I remember. If the given word is in a verb form, when you're changing it, change it with the right verb word. Do not change a word that is in a verb form with an adjective. The word class matters a lot. If the word is in is an adverb, change with an adverb. If it's a verb, change with a verb. If the verb is in the past, very important, change with the verb in the past. If it's in the present, change with the verb in the present. If it's in the present continuous, be consistent. These are ways to pass. So you must change appropriately. At least I've cleared that. So overcasts. Let's look for overcasts. All right, that's another word. Overcast, the pathfinder. All right, where did we get ominous? Ominous, we got it. An obligation, okay. So immediately after obligation, I think they are taking it step by step. So let me check overcasts under the next part, for the next paragraph. You say the pathfinder came home for a 2-day visit. All right, small envelope wrapper. The two were to meet at the junction where the village road led to the city. All right, overcast is the word that I'm looking for. Next paragraph, pathfinder's home. However, all right, I've seen it. So it says, however, that's the second line. However, the sky suddenly became overcast. Overcast, the cloud, the sky suddenly, so it became cloudy. That's it. That's the word. So the sky suddenly became cloudy. All right? Cloudy, clouded. And only seconds later became what? That was what it became. Overcast. You are describing it. So it became what? Cloudy, became clouded. And only seconds later, so I've changed it. Cloudy, that's an adjective. So I'm changing it with the word. It became what? Cloudy. The sky is what? Cloudy, or it's clouded. These are adjectives. Clouded, somebody would think is a verb. There are ed words that function as adjectives. As long as a word is describing a thing, it is no longer a verb, even if you've always known it as a verb. Outstretched is a verb. Outstretched arm becomes an adjective in that sentence. But some people will say clouded. Clouded, is it not a verb? It's ed, past tense. It is an adjective. It's describing the state of the what? Telling us the state of the sky. That means it's describing the sky. That's it. So the last but not the least, pensively. Where do we have that word? We need to find it. So overcast, obviously we need to go down. Or should we have it next paragraph? It says, as drenched as Makoko came into view, the pathfinder switched off the ignition and rushed out to meet up with her, guiding her into a nearby shade. After a few minutes of pleasantries, I don't have it there. Okay, so where could it be? I was thinking I would have it. Okay, I think we need to really come up. I can't remember seeing it anywhere else. The word is pensively. All right, so as drenched as, let me just keep reading. Pleasantries, handed her widow's mite. Ma, please wait a little. At what beats a mother's love? Doctors, okay, I would have thought. So, what can beat a mother's love? Dr. Phyllis Adoka, soliloquize. I know what it means to soliloquize. When you're soliloquizing, you're talking to yourself without someone hearing you. All right, so he said he soliloquized pensively. What would you be thinking? He soliloquized thoughtfully. That's it. He soliloquized thoughtfully. Yes, so that's it. That's the word I will give to it. To soliloquize pensively means to do something thoughtfully, deeply. Yes, deeply. That's another word. So I've given you two words. He soliloquized thoughtfully, shaking his head. You would know that is a deep thinking. All right. So we've come to the end of the comprehension passage. I believe that with the way I answered it, if you would approach yours that way, there wouldn't be any problem. The last but not the least on this theory equation would be summary. Well, this is where some of us find it difficult, reason being that we fail to choose our own words. Now, what is a summary? One would ask. A summary is a short form of an original work. That's what summary is. Summary is a short form, an abridged form of an original work. Now, when you're asked to summarize a work, you can be asked to summarize in two ways: continuous writing summary and summarizing in sentences. Now, as a matter of fact, as long as SSCE is concerned, Waec is concerned, you will always be asked to summarize in 2 sentences, in 3 sentences, in 4 sentences, in 5 sentences, as the case may be. But one thing is relevant. Do well to go through the passage well enough. You have to understand what the thesis is all about, what is the message the summary is trying to pass across. Once you understand the message, which is evidently clear, most often than not, in the first paragraph, it wouldn't be hard for you to identify your answers. What else must I know if I'm attempting summary questions is that I must, of importance, change words. Yes, do not summarize the way the writer has written it. Your ability to give a good summary is dependent on your ability, all right, to be able to choose your own words, still passing the same information. Now, that's what makes you a good student of summary writing. Ability to do what? Summarize a given passage using your own words. Summary means in a nutshell. Summary means concise. Summary means precise. Summary means going straight to the point, leaving the trivial issues, matters, and going for the weighty ones. And while going for these weighty ones, what do? Choose your words. The diction should be yours, but the information remains the same. Change your the vocabulary, but let the information remain the same. As much as you're changing the vocabularies, do not alter the what? The information part. So we're not going to read this summary, all right? You're going to read it on your own. But what I will do is to show you two ways of attempting this summary. Now, one, you can write your summary using a preamble to introduce before you outline your answers, the 6 sentences, or you can go with a direct sentence. Now, it says in 6 sentences, 1 for each. So how many sentences am I supposed to have? 6 sentences. I can use my bullet form. I can use my Roman figure to write out my 6 sentences. I can use bullet form. By bullet, I mean your dots, thickened dots, or you can number your sentences. So it says in 6 sentences, 1 for each. So 1 each. Summarize the qualities that the writer advises parents to instill in their children. So what are the qualities parents should instill in their children? So I want to answer this question. The qualities the writer advises parents to instill in their children are as follows. Colon, bullet 1, you write your answer. They must be respectful. They must be respectful. They must be children who are what? Obedient to instructions. So these are things you would have identified in the passage. For all well-meaning citizens, the moral decadence in our society nowadays is cause for concern. Some have argued that the root cause of this decadence is poor parenting, and that's why they are asking what parents should do. Indeed, poor parenting has given rise to what? Most of the criminality that we witness today. We all keep on complaining when, in fact, parents themselves are largely to blame for the unsavory situation. In order to improve the situation, parents need to inculcate certain sterling qualities in their children. So we want to start looking at these certain sterling qualities. There is no doubt that what? Temptations are bound to arise in everyday life. However, if lessons in self-control, we have it, self-control are instilled in children. So that's point number 1. Parents should be able to inculcate self-control in their children. Remember, we're looking at qualities that parents should instill in their children are 1, they should instill what? Self-control. Or they should do well to see the children have control over self and what they do. Number 2, that's it. You go to the next paragraph. Obviously, they will be discussing self-control in this paragraph. Today, many people consider themselves better than others and therefore look down on them. They are arrogant, imprudent, that's they are not wise, and intolerant. These are also factors or qualities, rather, parents should instill in their children. So you move on to the next one. In life, we cannot avoid obstacles and disappointments. A child cannot learn how to walk without occasional falls. Similarly, in life, we experience occasional setbacks. For example, a child may fail a test at school. In such a situation, what is needed is encouragement that will boost the child's confidence. So what should be instilled in a child? The act of what? Confidence. Having confidence in yourself that no matter come what may, you will always stand strong. So you must coin out your answers in such a way that it will yield your mark. summary is the highest. So you must take it seriously. If you're not good with the preambles, direct answers. One of the, what was the question so that will answer? I think you prefer the, it depends on your choice. So one of the qualities that the writer advises parents to instill in their children is self-control. Another quality that parents must see that their children exhibit is what? What's another? Self-control, tolerance, wisdom, and what? Humility. That's another quality. Arrogance, it's a form of pride. So you must not have it. Then what's another quality? Furthermore, you see it, I'm going into direct sentences. Furthermore, a parent should instill what in their children? Confidence. Parents should as well instill confidence as a quality necessary for living in our society. So we've taken 3. So you could go about the others. Again, so learn to use connectives. If you must use direct sentences, then there is need for you to use connectives. You saw how I started it. The first, the second, or you use first, parents should instill self-control. Second, there is need for, don't write second, you mention no. It should be in a sentence form. And remember, once you observe a full stop, you have made a sentence. Thank you so much for viewing this video. Keep viewing and learning. Don't just view, but learn while you view. And remember, go for more activities, test yourself, and see how far you have come. Thank you, and stay blessed.